Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carrot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2011 psychological thriller titled The Roommate, or as I would like to call this movie, Single White Female, The College Years. Oh boy, what a fine piece of work this movie is. Is that a good thing? Usually when I call it a fine piece of work, you can tell from the tone of my voice that I am talking in sarcasm. Anyhow, enough of that. Okay, the movie runs for 1 hour and 34 minutes long. It is directed by Chistensen. It is produced by Roy Lee and Doug Davison. The script was written by Sonny Malley. Okay, the score was done by John Frizzle. The cinematography was done by Phil Permet. And it was edited by Randy Bricker. And the stars of the movie are basically just a bunch of randomly thrown alumnuses from various CW network television programs. That's right, the actors are all from CW-based TV shows. So you got Leighton Meester from Gossip Girl. You got Minka Kelly from Body Public. You got Cam Gigandet from the OC. You have Danneel Harris from One Tree Hill. You got Matt Lanter, I should say, from 90210. Nina Dobrev from The Vampire Diaries. Ali Michalka from Hellcats and iZombies. You have Kat Graham, also from The Vampire Diaries. You have Billy Zane. You also have Nathan Parsons from the originals and also Roswell, New Mexico. You have Alex Meraz and Francis Fisher. And, oh yeah, I forgot to also mention Tomas Arana. Oh boy. If you could find some kind of psychological thriller without the thrills, then you've come to the right place. So the story goes a little something like this. Sarah Matthews, played by Minka Kelly, is starting her freshman year at ULA, and of course she's anticipating a new level in her life filled with new challenges and a new chapter in her life. So as normal, it's both fun, exciting, and at times very scary. Something that you would probably expect when you are now going to university. And what do I mean by the last one? Oh, I don't know. Getting inebriated at frat parties. Getting involved in debates with the higher up in the education system. Or eventually maybe even, no, I don't know, getting a roommate with a psychopathic student named Rebecca Evans, played by Leighton Meester. Oh, did I just give away a vital spoiler alert? A vital spoiler? Yeah, that's right. She is now roommates with a total psychopath named Rebecca Evans, played by Leighton Meester. So after some quick bonding and socialization, Rebecca becomes freakishly obsessed with Sarah, that it becomes violent way too soon, and for not giving the fans the chance to breathe into the characters and to get to know them better. We're often treated to Sarah's tedious giggle as she remains dismissive of her roommate's wrath. Eventually, Sarah catches on rather dimly that Rebecca is not all that sane. So what we have here is pretty much of 90 minutes of lesbian teasers, half-baked scenarios, and Meester's unsurprising insanity, blinding Kelly, and anything that is eligible to consider anything given here that is something of sheer significance. In other words, this is the psychological thriller. This was anticlimactic, uninspiring, and also practically unoriginal. Like I said, when I mentioned it, single white female, the college years, this movie clearly epitomizes what I'm talking about. The only difference is that single white female had intensity. This one actually had adrenaline's rush. This one had a lot of climactic moments going into that movie. Here, it's all been drained out. It's all been watered down. And there's really nothing really much to say or to talk about. Yes, I know I'm going on even just by doing this simple rant. I seem to be going on too long. But then again, this is just me giving my 5 cents. But when I watch this movie is not even worth their 5 cents. Let alone 90 minutes of filler. So famous for playing snobbish, vengeful, neurotic student Blair Waldorf of CW's Gossip Girl, Meester undoubtedly has great versatility for her acting. This, I'm not completely debunking Leighton Meester. I mean, let's face it, she's a great actress, and her character role on Gossip Girl as Blair Waldorf is actually pretty damn good. And yes, I know she has potential to play practically any character that's thrown at her, but sadly, she gets bogged down to mindless tripe in The Roommate, which has her talents put to waste in shameful fashion by exhibiting melodramatic acting mixed with atrocious histrionics. Her role as the criminally insane roommate from the lower end stresses with a mimicry of Mommy Dearest and a cringe-induced vapid nature very similar to her Blair Waldorf character, with the exception of being inferior in the intelligence department. Oh, and by the way, because of her psychological issues, we discover that there is an anticlimactic reason why she is the way she is. And it's not because she's not going over the grief that has plagued her most of her life, like the characters in Single White Female, the leading villain character in Single White Female. No. In a very anticlimactic scene where Rebecca takes Sarah to her parents' house, and Mr. and Mrs. Evans asks Sarah if Rebecca has taken her medication. Apparently, it's been revealed that Rebecca suffers from bipolar disorder, which to me feels downright deeply insulting, especially the people who have bipolar disorder. Oh, so somebody who has mental issues is nothing more than a bona fide psychopath. Is that what they're trying to say here? Because if they say that, then they're off their fucking heads. Let me just tell you something. I am deeply also offended by that analogy too. I've got Asperger's syndrome. I am not going to deny that. But I am in no way, shape, or form a psychopath. I do suffer from mental breakdowns every once in a while. I don't do it all the time. I don't do it excessively. But there is one thing I would never stoop to doing. And that is going out on a frenzy just because I'm obsessive of someone. I'm not really actually ever been obsessive with anyone. And I think this is actually an insult to people who have mental illnesses. If that's what they're trying to get at. Just because she's off her meds right away, she's a psychopath. She is this wacky doodle, which is complete and total hyperbole. And if people who think that just because a person who's got mental illnesses are off their meds are lunatics, well, have you ever reevaluated your own status quo? Something to think about. I'm not trying to make out that this rant is putting all the blame to Meester's performance as to why this movie is very bad. But the whole plot line is just amateur device for college flunkies. I mean, the whole story is unoriginal and uninspiring. And the framework is pure amateur. And the whole story is quite pedestrian and vanilla. Meester's maniacal demeanor is virtually omnipresent from the scenes in the shower to the bedroom, lurking in the shadows. She is seen in possession with a weapon. Then the rest of the ensemble are just a hodgepodge of lame-brained caricatures. And when they meet their fate, I do not shed a solitary tear in my eye. In the movie, in movies like Single White Female, The Hand That Rocked the Cradle, Unlawful Entry, The Good Son, when a character or characters meet their fate, I do show a little signs of sympathy. Here, because basically all the other supporting characters have very little or nothing to do, and then because I don't really know too much about their backstories, it leads me to, why should I care? The only graphic scene is the belly ring extraction, and even that was watered down with no blood, though I am not a sadist for blood. And the characters who got wiped out in the movie bear little significance to the plot, with the only arc being Meester in a room bearing a weapon. Was this movie trying to do everything in its power to be a slasher film? Or was it trying to sort of like be inspired by 90s themed movies like I've ever mentioned? Oh, I should not have forgotten about Misery. But at least Misery had climactic stuff. Misery was actually something that I could sit down and be invested in. Sure, it was a simple plot. Sure, there was really not, it was a narrow, thin plot, a narrow, thin story. But at least you had characters who had charisma, who had appeal, and actually had characters that you could genuinely relate to. And it was one of those kind of movies where you could root for the good guys and boo the bad guys. I mean, when you think of a movie like Misery, you do take a good care for James Caan's character of Paul and Kathy Bates' characters and as being a flat-out villain. But at least these characters can actually have appeal. They have charisma. They have that energy that gets your blood going. Here, it's quite unsettling. The characters are boring, and they just don't seem to have this method to appeal to anyone. I mean, basically, when you're sitting in a theater, all you're going to do is just, I mean, probably it might appeal to the late teens, early 20s, but I think the only reason why they're going to go see this movie is because they're such big fans of these CW-based shows, and they would be like, oh, look, it's Leighton Meester. It's Blair Waldorf from Gossip Girl. Oh, look, there's Danneel Harris from One Tree Hill. Oh, and there's Matt Lanter from 90210. And look, there's Nina Dobrev from The Vampire Diaries. Oh, that's so awesome. They're in this movie. That's kind of like what probably the reason why people would go to see this piece of shit that is called a movie. Okay, so like the other cast members who are nothing more than witless filler, Meester has next to nothing to work on. But when she does have something within her, she pounds it quite ferociously. Yes, when she's not like lurking in the shadows, threatening or giving severe reprimands, she's just lurking in the shadows. She's just doing that. But when she does get into some action, it's basically over-the-top drivel. And there's really nothing much to show. The final scenes are wrapped in a way that symbolizes today's Spence films, with little to no substance and very little appeal to the mass markets, and getting very little back in terms of suspense. When all is said and done, after the credits rolled, I had nothing to talk about. Usually after when I finish watching a movie, I would like to gather around with friends and discuss more about the movie that I watch. Here, it was just one big pile of meh. That's all it was. This movie spelled 3 letters. M-E-H. Meh. Being that it was set in the epicenter of higher education, the Roommate sees little activities of students cramming for their exams or handing in term papers and whatnot. No, just like a typical high school setting like you would see on shows like Party of Five, Melrose Place, Beverly Hills 90210. You see very little action in the classroom. Most of the time is a cliche. You would often see most of the students just hanging around the school campus, hanging outside, chatting with their friends, smoking, throwing frisbees, or things like that. You never actually really see too much action in the classrooms or in the libraries where they're reading their books or doing their research and stuff like that. So we're getting the impression that university life is just one big party, and all the commitments to getting your education is just secondary. Is that kind of like the frame of mind that viewers get when they watch movies that are based on education? Because you don't see very much of students getting educationally inclined. Basically, I see a lot of slackers hanging outside the campus, talking, smoking. Well, I don't know about smoking. I don't even think these days anymore you're allowed to do that. You know, playing frisbee. Nobody's actually doing anything constructive, educational. And yet it still finds ways to manipulate us into thinking that this film is seen as an intelligent film just because the characters are college students complete with false wittiness and partner swapping. For a thriller movie, The Roommate has no thrills, and with a cornucopia of alums from those drama shows that we see on the CW network. And it feels like these performers were just pretty much taking breaks from their television commitments and to arrive at the studio to do their respected scenes, complete with anything but suspenseful moments, while pretending it's catering to the intelligence when it's really insulting your intelligence. If this doesn't sum up what this movie is about, let's just say, of all the colleges and roommates you have to offer, well, skip this one. It's as bad as you can get. Yes, I kind of know that this was definitely a rant, but just don't take my word for it. Many other reviewers have given The Roommate a lot of negativity in their reviews. Because let's face it, there was really little to offer. Little to nothing to offer. It was dull, it was wanton, it was supposed to have been a suspense thriller, but there was really little to be suspenseful about. There was nothing climactic. It tried to be single white female, but failed because it did not have anything that we can invest into. And to me, it just felt like all these CW network television stars were all just cramming in just to make an amateur movie. That's what it felt like. I mean, I could probably sit down and watch a 12-minute long YouTube video with suspense and with mystery, and I could be just as much entertained, maybe even more entertained, than to sit through over 90 minutes of this drivel. So do I recommend this movie? Absolutely hell no. This is truly a one that is a must to avoid. So when all is said and done, if I was to give a scale out of 10, I would give The Roommate a 4. Skip this one. Believe me. And if you like your favorite stars from the CW, then check out their other shows where they actually seem to perform better. These guys were just badly wasted. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. But if you wish to leave a comment, Go right ahead, but just remember 3 things. Be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I'll be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Red Rider saying keep watching those movies, and I will see you around. Goodbye.